The numbers are terrifying. If you open a standard military almanac in 2026 and look at the Order of Battle for the People's Liberation Army Air Force, PLAAF, you see a behemoth. China operates over 2,000 combat aircraft. They have hundreds of J-20 stealth fighters, the mighty dragons designed to rival the F-22. They have over 1,000 J-16s, Chinese flankers, and J-10s, capable fourth-generation workhorses. They have a fleet of H-6K bombers loaded with cruise missiles. It is an air force built for mass, built for scale, and built to overwhelm any adversary in the first island chain. Now look at the Royal Australian Air Force (RAAF). Australia has roughly 100 combat jets. That includes 72 F-35A Lightning IIs and 24 F divided by a -18 F Super Hornets. We have fewer jets than China has air bases. On paper this is not a fight. It is a massacre. It is a 20-to-1 disadvantage. If this were a video game where both sides spawned in an arena and flew at each other, Australia would be wiped out in 15 minutes. But war is not a video game. War is played on a map. And when you look at the map of the Indo-Pacific, the paper tiger of Chinese air power begins to dissolve into the reality of physics and geography. The thesis for this episode is simple. Australia does not need to defeat the entire Chinese Air Force. It only needs to defeat the fraction of it that can actually reach Australia. And right now, that fraction is small, tired, and flying into a trap. Welcome to Doctrine of War. Today we are conducting a reality check on the air war of 2026. We are going to break down the sea-air gap, the moat that protects the continent. We are going to analyze why the F-35 is slaughtering the competition in wargames. And we are going to look at the Australian-made secret weapon, the Ghostbat drone, that has just rewritten the rules of engagement. Let's start with the geography. To attack Australia, Chinese jets have to fly from their bases in the South China Sea, from Hainan Island or the artificial islands like Fiery Cross Reef, or potentially from occupied airfields in the archipelago to the north. Even from the closest possible bases, the distance to Darwin is over 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers. Fighter jets are not designed for that. A J-20 has a combat radius. To get to Australia it has to fly for hours. It has to refuel in midair multiple times from massive, vulnerable tanker aircraft like the Y-20. Think about the physiology of the pilot. By the time a Chinese pilot reaches the sea-air gap, the water between Indonesia and the Australian mainland, he has been in the cockpit for 6 hours. He is exhausted. He has been managing fuel transfers, watching his navigation, and dealing with the stress of flying over hostile waters. His situational awareness is degraded by fatigue. And crucially, he is carrying a lighter payload. To fly that far, you have to carry more fuel and fewer missiles. You have to make trade-offs. You cannot bring a full bomb load to Darwin unless you want to ditch in the ocean on the way back. The Australian pilot, taking off from RAF base Tyndall or Darwin, is fresh. He has had a good night's sleep. He has full fuel tanks. He has a full load of missiles. He is fighting on his home turf, backed by a ground-based radar network like the Jindalee Operational Radar Network, JORN, which sees thousands of kilometers over the horizon. This turns the 20-to-1 advantage into a lie. China cannot put 2,000 jets over Darwin. They can maybe put 20 or 30 at a time. The logistical tether simply won't stretch that far without breaking. And against those 20 exhausted jets, Australia can launch 50 fresh F-35s. The tyranny of distance, that usually hurts the West, making it hard to reinforce Taiwan or Ukraine, actually saves Australia here. It forces the enemy to fight a sniper duel instead of a parking lot brawl. And in a sniper duel you don't want numbers. You want optics, range, and stealth. Furthermore, consider the tankers. The Chinese Y-20 tanker fleet is the Achilles heel of their expeditionary air power. These are big, slow, non-stealthy aircraft. If the RAF shoots down the tankers, the Chinese fighters run out of fuel and crash into the sea. The Australian strategy isn't just to kill the fighters, it's to kill the gas stations. Without those tankers, the PLAAF is a regional air force, not a continental threat. They can dominate Taiwan, but they cannot project power to the southern hemisphere. The invisible wall. This brings us to the tool that wins the duel, the F-35A Lightning II. For years critics bashed this plane. They called it expensive, buggy, and slow. But by 2026, with the RAAF reaching final operational capability, the debate is over. The F-35 has proven itself to be the deadliest platform in the sky for one reason: information dominance. The Chinese J-20 is a formidable aircraft. It is fast, it has long range, and it has a stealthy frontal profile. But it is still, fundamentally, a traditional fighter. It relies on its own radar to see. And when it turns on its radar, it becomes a beacon. The F-35 is a flying sensor sponge. Its APG-81 radar is also a powerful electronic warfare jammer. Its distributed aperture system, DAS, allows the pilot to look through the floor of the cockpit and see the ground below. It absorbs electronic emissions from the enemy, radar pings, radio comms, data links. It builds a picture of the battlefield without ever emitting a signal itself. It shares that data instantly via MADL, Multifunction Advanced Data Link, with every other Australian asset in the theater: the destroyers, the missile batteries, the other jets. In wargames like Pitch Black and Red Flag, the RAAF is achieving kill ratios of roughly 20-1 against aggressor squadrons simulating high-end threats like the Su-35 or J-11. Why? Because the Australian pilots are shooting the enemy in the face before the enemy even knows there is a fight. The F-35 creates an invisible wall north of the continent. It patrols silently, emitting no radar energy, just listening. When a Chinese formation approaches, tired from their long flight, relying on their tankers, the F-35s detect them. They classify them. They prioritize the targets, kill the AWACS first, then the tankers, then the fighters. They launch long-range AMRAAM or the new JATM, Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, from the no-escape zone. The Chinese pilots see nothing on their radar until their warning receivers scream that they are dead. They are fighting ghosts. But the F-35 isn't alone. It is backed by the Eye of God. The RAAF operates the E-7A Wedgetail. This is an airborne early warning and control (AEWNC) aircraft. It is widely considered superior even to the U.S. Air Force's E-3 Sentry, which uses 1970s technology. The Wedgetail uses a fixed MESA radar that can stare at a target continuously without rotating. It can look down into the clutter of the ocean and pick out low-flying cruise missiles or stealth fighters. The Wedgetail sits back, safe behind the line, and acts as the quarterback. It tells the F-35s where to look. It manages the battle. It ensures that the RAAF isn't just a collection of planes, but a single, integrated organism. A Chinese attack force is flying blind into a room where the lights are off for them, but on for us. They are flying into an information ambush. And let's not forget the electronic warfare capabilities. The A-18G Growler fleet. Australia operates a squadron of these dedicated jamming aircraft. They can blind Chinese radars, disrupt their communications, and sever the data links between the Chinese fighters and their command centers. So, the Chinese pilot is not just tired and low on fuel. He is deaf, blind, and dumb. He can't talk to his wingman. He can't see the enemy. And he is being targeted by missiles he can't detect. The Ghostbat revolution. But in 2026, Australia added a wild card that China has no answer for. Something that breaks the traditional calculus of pilot versus pilot. For the last 5 years, Boeing Australia has been developing the MQ-28 Ghostbat. It was designed and built in Brisbane. It is the first combat aircraft designed in Australia in 50 years. In 2026, the Ghostbat is no longer a prototype. It is operational. And it is armed. The Ghostbat is a loyal wingman. It is a jet-powered drone that flies alongside the F-35. It is fast, stealthy, and relatively cheap, about a tenth of the cost of a manned fighter. Here is the tactic. An RAAF F-35 pilot takes off with 3 Ghostbats under his command. He is the mission commander. He doesn't fly the drones with a joystick. He gives them commands like, search this sector, or protect my flank, and the AI does the rest. As they approach the sea-air gap, he sends the Ghostbats ahead. They fly 100 kilometers in front of him. They turn on their radars. They draw the enemy fire. If a Chinese J-20 shoots a missile, it hits a robot. We lose a machine. We build another one in Queensland next week. But by shooting, the J-20 reveals its position. The radar emission gives it away. The launch flash gives it away. The Australian pilot, sitting safely back in his F-35, sees the launch. He fires a missile at the J-20. The Chinese lose a pilot and a $100 million airframe. This breaks the adaptation math. In a war of attrition, China wins because they have more people and planes. But if Australia can trade cheap robots for expensive Chinese pilots, the math flips. We can afford to lose drones. They cannot afford to lose their elite aviators. The Ghostbat allows the RAAF to generate Massachusetts. We might only have 100 manned fighters, but we can put 400 shooters in the sky. It also acts as a magazine truck. The F-35 can only carry 4 missiles internally, but the Ghostbat can carry extra missiles. The F-35 finds the target, and the drone takes the shot. This keeps the manned fighter safe and silent, acting purely as a sensor node. Or the Ghostbat can act as a jammer, flying close to the enemy and blasting electronic noise to blind them while the manned fighters flank. This is a capability that China is still struggling to perfect. Their loyal wingman programs are years behind in terms of the AI integration needed to make it work seamlessly. Australia has the first mover advantage. We are writing the doctrine for the rest of the world. The verdict. So, can the Australian Air Force hold off China in 2026? If the question is, can Australia invade China? The answer is no. But that isn't the mission. The mission is denial. The mission is to make the airspace north of Darwin so lethal, so complex, and so costly that Beijing decides it isn't worth the price of entry. We are building a fortress. The combination of the geography, which exhausts the attacker, the F-35, which blinds the attacker, and the Ghostbat, which bleeds the attacker, creates a defensive triad that is incredibly difficult to crack. Australia doesn't need to win a war of conquest. We just need to hold the gap. We need to ensure that no Chinese ship or plane can cross that line without being targeted. We need to protect the bases from which the US bombers operate. The paper tiger of 2,000 jets is irrelevant if they can't bring them to the fight. The reality of 2026 is that the RAAF has built a technological edge that effectively neutralizes China's numerical edge. In the skies over the Arafura Sea, quality still beats quantity. And Australia has quality in spades. The airspace north of Darwin has become the most dangerous place on Earth for a Chinese pilot. It is a kill box designed by geography and perfected by technology. And as long as the RAF holds that line, the continent remains safe. Thanks for watching Doctrine of War. Do you think drone wingmen like the Ghostbat are the future, or will manned fighters always be king? Let us know in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay realistic, and we'll see you in the next one.